Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are zooming in and focusing in on a very poignant viewer question that we received and we got in. And I plan to do a whole ongoing series that really looks into depth and detail into the experience of what is known as quiet borderline personality disorder. There's a lot of information, a lot of rich information in this topic, so I plan to be developing and expanding a lot of content on this subject, as I feel that a lot of people who may be experiencing this or may know or be in relationships with others who have this sensitivity in life and in relationships, as well as those individuals who have narcissistic individuals in their lives who are trying to cope with that, as well as the psychopathic individuals. I feel that there's a lot of content and richness in the fodder and foundation that surrounds a lot of these cluster B personality disorders. And really, it's very, there's a lot of very rich content in this experience. So I want to give a huge shout out to our viewer who wrote in with that question. And I also want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made a donation here to the channel, Peace and Harmony now at gmail.com. There's also a donate button now on the homepage. And I have so much gratitude for you for reaching out and making your donation. And your viewership is so valued. It's so important. And your perceptions, your experience, and your input is so important. And it makes a ripple of change out into the viewership here. And I've received a lot of very positive feedback from viewers. So thank you for your comments, your compliments, and your input. It's so important. And I'm so glad that you have found a resource of knowledge, tools, and understanding here at the channel. So please do continue to follow. And I definitely welcome your inquiries and suggestions, so please feel free to contact me or comment down below. And so furthermore, I really want to dive into the content on quiet borderline personality disorder. Now, borderline personality disorder is really typified by kind of a mood disturbance, or really what is known as a mood sensitivity. An individual who is highly sensitive to mood fluctuations, kind of an inner feeling of perhaps emotional instability or emptiness, really a feeling of like uncertainty and rage and anger that can kind of outburst within and can cause really a lot of issues and kind of a instability in interpersonal relationships. So it tends to really become a barrier and a feeling that kind of creates a rift or a pattern of being in relationships and then sabotaging them, and furthermore feeling like there's something inherently wrong with them. In the borderline personality disorder, we see this feeling of emotional instability, which basically it's, low lows, high highs, a lot of fluctuations. And I really feel it's really being highly sensitive. And these people are oftentimes extremely talented, extremely intellectual, and extremely intelligent, and really just need a channel to kind of cultivate and really learn to mold and shape their emotional energy, which is energy in motion, because these people can be very rich in feeling and emotion. So, we have a lot of, when they say emotional instability, meaning it just can rear its head at unexpected times and kind of subvert its head at unexpected times. So there's a feeling of loss of control oftentimes within these individuals, within their experience of life or experience of in relationships. And it's this feeling of uncertainty or feeling like that they can't predict or control things that can be very uncomfortable. And it can cause them to really resort to isolation and really sort of retreat and really kind of recede. I would say pull back. It causes them to not want to interact, feel shy, or what is really known as the quiet borderline personality. So someone who really does not want to communicate or feels like communication causes problems. If I say hi, this could blow up. If I, have a conversation, I might just explode and I might start just going off and, it's just basically like, the Jack in the Box. Like, it's cranked up a few times and then here we go. It's just like ready to explode. And like, I'm afraid that it's just going to keep going and going, and I can't rein in the feelings. I can't rein in the communication. I can't rein in what I'm doing. And so oftentimes these people, it's like an all or nothing experience. So they either, it's hard to mediate or basically modulate their feelings or expression. So the feeling, one of the typical experiences that you might see in a borderline individual is the impulsivity, the black or white thinking, just kind of like the sudden rage outbursts, oftentimes that seemingly are unwarranted or unfounded or inappropriate in intensity for that situation or circumstance. So, someone might have, so I call this basically highly sensitive, highly reactive. So, and it's a tendency to kind of over perceive situations. So someone might ask, you to do something, and it's the, even though it's just a natural, normal, or a request, and they tend to then receive it as highly critical, or they tend to be highly sensitive to requests or interaction, or bringing things to your attention. A lot of people feel that they're being called out, that they're, throwing you under the bus, that they're getting you in trouble or insulting your personality as a whole. So these people tend to then overreact. This person is a B, they're a this, they're a that, and they tend to just kind of fly off the handle. And so the reactions tend to be very extreme. As it relates to the incidents or request. But not only is it, do they feel that within relationships, with people in their environment, but oftentimes this is internalized. So we see a lot of this acting in the quiet borderline personality disorder. So quiet, as they say, in other words, someone who's very, very placid on the outside, someone who does not, they can be have a lot of personality, a lot of flavor, a lot of character, and oftentimes very strong characters at that. So these people are not lacking in personality at all. In fact, oftentimes they're very poignant and very rich in personality. Have a lot of wonderful personality characteristics, meaning that they are highly sensitive. They do perceive things in very fine and almost excruciating detail, but yet they don't really feel like they have the reins to kind of focus it or harness it in, or oftentimes utilize a creative outlet. So oftentimes these people can be highly creative, highly articulate, but oftentimes it gets distorted or submerged, or sometimes people kind of tend to bottom out because they feel this sense of inadequacy or a feeling of being inherently flawed. The borderline personality disorder feels this, chronic self-loathing, and really, oftentimes wants to take out this feeling of, impulsive rage and impulsive anger out oftentimes on themselves. So we see like an introverted anger, an introverted self-loathing or self-hate, which of course is oftentimes founded by what we call an over-perception, or a feeling of mood lability or mood instability. So in other words, there's a lot of this. We're not talking about the quiet, even though the outer exterior of being very placid, very stoic, not having a lot to say, but yet there's a lot of feeling that's going on underneath the surface. So, this sort of anger can oftentimes be turned in on oneself, and they feel so out of control that oftentimes they'll engage in a lot of self-sabotaging behavior, self-injurious behavior, whether intentional or accidental. These individuals who might, be very, very, apparently quiet, they don't seem to have a lot to say, or very, low action level, but yet they're cutting themselves, and they seem to be bleeding, and then leaving a lot of rusty knives around, or bloody tissues or band-aids or like blood dripping on the wall because they just, cut themselves and they're not cleaning up of themselves. So they're trying to send a message that they're hurting, but they don't have kind of like a healthy outlet for expressing that. So, you might see a lot of these sort of indicators or signs that this is going on. And not to mention, people who cut themselves. Some people, because they're experiencing such emptiness, and yet they want to express this, emptiness, but yet it's tinged with rage. It's kind of this mix of emptiness and rage and anger, and they don't really know how to express it. So they might engage in a lot of tattooing or self-mutilization, a lot of piercing behavior, this sort of thing that, a lot of those earrings that tend to create the big hole situation, with the insert, those discs where they're kind of distorting their body, or, trying to not only self-mutilate, but, change change their skin service for this. And so they might engage in a lot of cutting in order to feel, take out their rage, because it feels like something that it releases an endorphin, which then they can then quench the pain with. So people who self-mutilate or might take a razor and kind of cut themselves, or keep scratching themselves, keep scratching, and to the point where it breaks the surface on the skin, and then they kind of have like these sores or wounds from scratching themselves. And it's a misdirected anger. It's a misdirected energy. And oftentimes it needs to be alchemized into something that is more productive or creative. As I say and feel that these individuals oftentimes are highly creative individuals. In other words, they have a lot of emotion underneath to express. So you really need, these individuals do need to have a creative outlet, whether it is painting, whether it is graphic arts, whether it is ceramics, whether it is, sculpting, the metalworks, designing jewelry, designing, woodworking, designing iron crafting, ironwork, building and construction, building furniture, building decks, becoming into architecture, or, stonework, lapidary work, learning to work with tools carefully, harnessing this energy. These people oftentimes, really, even become doctors or surgeons, have a great deal of energy to work with their hands. They are very good at handling things, and oftentimes they need to keep their hands busy. So rather than directing it as an inward, looking to, injure oneself or really cause these issues then with interpersonal relationships, oftentimes these people are, are very good at being independent or on their own, or, even though they feel isolated, you need to kind of alchemize and transform this into being, I'm a strong, independent person. So and we're going to be developing a lot of content on this, that I'm really understanding that you need to really benefit from using the tool of metacognition and cognitive reforming, cognitive reframing, meaning that rather than negatively interpreting so many things, this isn't going right, this person's going to abandon me, all these different stories that tend to, pervade and be part of their subconscious. They're doing this against me, they're this, it's like this overperception and trying to control and the out of control feelings. They get caught into kind of like this spin or spiral, and it's a lot of the healing and the because these people are there's a very great it's very likely that they will be able to harness this with time. So I do feel and find that these are one of the disorders that do have a high healing rate. It just takes time and maturity and really using a lot of the tools consistently, and really learning to work with a personality that you have or that is inherent within this individual. So the tools of cognitive reframing in using basically alchemizing, transforming that feeling of negativity into one of positivity. Rather than feeling like I'm going to be abandoned, or this person is doing this to me, the tendency to over perceive and self-loathe and create a lot of this toxic negativity, realizing that oftentimes beginning to understand it. Okay, here comes that energy again. Here comes that anger. Let me transform this. Let me alchemize this. Rather than becoming so self-loathing or feeling so empty or lashing out at this person, let me understand that this is my cue to create. Let me know that this is my cue to focus. Let me realize that and identify that maybe I could be over perceiving this, and I'm not going to inflict the negativity upon myself. I'm going to do the productive. I'm going to get into my interior design. I'm going to get into my graphic design. I'm going to work with color. I'm going to work with shape. I'm going to work with paint. I'm going to work with ceramics. I'm going to work with fabrics. I'm going to work with wood. I'm going to work with metals. I'm going to work with stones. It's plugging in the solutions on a consistent and daily basis and saying, I'm so done with this hostility taking control of my life. I'm so done with this anger causing me this rage outburst and destroying my relationships. I'm so done with trying to self-medicate and drink my anger away, or binge eat my anger away, or gamble my anger away, or overspend, my credit cards of anger, rage, hate, and resentment, and fear of abandonment. I'm so done and sick of misdirecting my emotion into the wrong areas, because it's just causing more problems, and I'm just really re-solidifying the fact that I'm out of control, I'm worthless, I don't have what it takes, I don't have what's required. It's all something it is something you do have under your control, and we're going to be developing content here. And it's really a matter of plugging in the specific tools and solutions and keeping that in your focus. Because there's a tendency to, be what I call the template or habituated time and time again with that negative story about yourself, or what we call the negative schema. I am the worthless. People are going to abandon me. People don't like me. All these sort of negative self-talk, and then negative cognitions, negative feelings, negative behaviors, which cause the withdrawal, the isolation, the binging out, the rage outbursts, all these different things, the very sort of extremes, very isolated and then very out there. And it's just, so there is a way to temper it. And temper it meaning kind of get it under control and get it kind of into more of a simmer versus kind of like an outright boil or a freeze, so it's learning to get into kind of the basis of this, and getting kind of helping to neutralize, that anger, but then, bring up that sort of isolation. So it begins to kind of become more of a fluidity of emotion in your life that has a healthy outlet and a healthy understanding. And, we're really going to be developing content on this. So I think it's very important, because I think a lot of people can see the coexistence of the borderline, what we call the borderline personality disorder, or experience within themselves or others. You can see kind of how it adds flavor or experience in these situations with the other personality disorders that we see on that same spectrum of the cluster B, kind of that chaotic, hectic, instability that we see really in the narcissistic as well as the psychopathic individuals. So it all does kind of fit into this content that we are exploring here, and understanding and really getting the tools and format for discussion and support. So I want to thank you once again for your viewership, and please do share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. And furthermore, stay tuned for more content developed on to explore really the experience of this personality disorder, what the situations look like within yourself or with another person, and tools and resources and discussion and support for how to cope, how to understand, and really how to utilize really the inherent temperament perhaps that you were born with or this individual has in your life, to really kind of understand it and cope and manage for a peaceful and happy life moving forward. It is peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.